Dear Extreme Expat Stories team, I've been obsessing over watching your channel now, and every story hits me like a punch to the gut, because I can see myself in every single one of these guys. I finally have the courage to share my own story, hoping it might have some positive impact on someone else from the absolute destruction I've experienced. My name is Sebastian, and 18 months ago, I was a 34-year-old tech executive living in San Francisco with a net worth of $2.3 million. Today, I'm writing this from a 200 baht internet cafe in Bangkok, trying to figure out how to afford my flight back to the US. I've lost everything, and I mean everything, in the most spectacularly stupid way possible. I spent 8 years building my career in Silicon Valley, working 80-hour weeks, grinding through 3 startups. When my third company got acquired by Google in early 2023, I walked away with $1.8 million after taxes. Plus, I had about $500,000 in other investments. At 34, I was financially free. But I was also completely burnt out and frankly, depressed as hell. The pandemic years had been brutal. I'd worked remotely, barely leaving my apartment, and my social life had completely disappeared. I was making great money, but living like a hermit. My last relationship had ended 2 years prior, and I was just empty. You know that feeling when you achieve everything you're supposed to want but feel absolutely nothing? That's when I discovered YouTube channels about expat life. Initially, I was watching retirement channels, but then I stumbled onto content about younger guys living in Thailand on passive income. The lifestyle looked incredible. Beautiful weather, amazing food, low cost of living, and the promise of a social life I'd never experienced in San Francisco. I became obsessed. I spent months researching, joining Facebook groups, watching every Thailand expat video I could find. The more I learned, the more convinced I became that this was my path to happiness. I was going to move to Thailand, live like a king on my millions, maybe start a small business, and finally enjoy my life. In 2023, March, I sold everything. My condo, my car, everything, and booked a one-way ticket to Bangkok. I had $2.3 million and I planned to live comfortably on the investment returns while exploring business opportunities. The first month was exactly what I'd dreamed of. I stayed in a luxury hotel in Sukhumvit, ate at the best restaurants, got massages daily, and felt like I was living in paradise. The weather was perfect. The people were friendly. And for the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. But here's where the stupidity starts. Instead of taking my time to understand the country and culture, I immediately started looking for ways to optimize my situation. I was a tech guy. I always thought I could hack any system. Within 6 weeks, I'd met a group of Western expats who ran what they called investment consultation businesses. These guys seemed to have it all figured out. They were living in penthouse condos, driving luxury cars, and constantly talking about their passive income streams from cryptocurrency arbitrage and Thai real estate investments. The ringleader was a British guy named James. Not his real name, but I'm sure you could guess why I'm being careful. James was maybe 40, incredibly charismatic. and he seemed to know everyone in the expat community. He drove a new BMW, lived in a massive condo in Tonglor, and was always picking up tabs at expensive restaurants. James took me under his wing, introduced me to his circle, and within 2 weeks, I was convinced I'd found my tribe. These guys were living the dream I'd imagined, and they were offering to help me get there too. The pitch was simple. They had developed a system for cryptocurrency arbitrage between Thai and international exchanges, combined with strategic real estate investments in up-and-coming areas of Bangkok. They were making 15 to 20% monthly returns, and they wanted to bring me in as a partner. I should have run. Every single red flag was there. But I was lonely. I was impressed by their lifestyle, and frankly, I was arrogant enough to think I was smart enough to evaluate their business model. In May of 2023, I invested $200,000 into their arbitrage fund. The returns were exactly as promised. I was seeing 18% monthly gains, and the money was hitting my account like clockwork. James and his team provided detailed reports, showed me their trading dashboards, and everything looked legitimate. More importantly, I was having the time of my life. I was part of their inner circle, going to exclusive parties, meeting successful expats, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt like I belonged to something. These guys became my best friends, my business partners, and my social network all rolled into one. By July, I was so impressed with the returns that I increased my investment to 500,000. The gains continued, and I was making more money passively than I'd ever made working. James suggested I consider putting more capital to work, especially since they were about to launch a new real estate development project in Phuket. The real estate opportunity was presented as a ground floor investment in a luxury condo development targeting high-end expats and tourists. They had architectural plans, government approvals, and a famous Thai developer as a partner. The minimum investment was 300,000, but James offered to let me in for 250,000 because of our friendship. Looking back, I realized this was where I crossed the line from investor to victim. But at the time, I was making money hand over fist, living in paradise, and these guys had become my closest friends. When James suggested I should go all in and really commit to the Thailand lifestyle, it felt like the natural next step. In September of 2023, I made a decision that would destroy my life. I invested another $800,000, bringing my total exposure to $1.55 million, or about 65% of my net worth. But it wasn't just the money. James had convinced me to help him secure a large office space in Sathorn for their expanding business, and I personally guaranteed the lease for $15,000 per month. I also got involved in their social media marketing, helping them create content and build their online presence. I was featured in their promotional videos, gave testimonials, and even helped them pitch to other potential investors. I wasn't just invested financially, I was all in on their success. Around this time, I met Nim through James's network. She was 28, absolutely gorgeous, worked in marketing for a luxury hotel chain, and spoke perfect English. She was nothing like the bar girls or working girls I'd heard about. She was educated, sophisticated, and came from a good family. Nim and I hit it off immediately. She was impressed by my business success, my lifestyle, and my plans for Thailand. We started dating, and within a few months, we were practically living together. She moved into my condo in Phnom Penh, and we were making plans for the future. Nim was supportive of my business ventures and even introduced me to some of her contacts in the Thai business community. She helped me navigate cultural situations, taught me basic Thai, and made me feel like I was really building a life in Thailand, not just visiting. In November of 2023, I noticed the first problems. My monthly returns from the arbitrage fund were delayed by a week. When I asked James about it, he explained that there had been some technical issues with one of the exchange partners, but everything was resolved. The next month, the payment was short by about $5,000. James explained that they'd had to reinvest some of the profits to take advantage of a once in a lifetime opportunity in the crypto market. He showed me projections suggesting that this reinvestment would double or return within 6 months. I was concerned, but I trusted James, and the numbers still looked good overall. Plus, I was living comfortably on the returns I was receiving, and my lifestyle costs were much lower than they'd been in San Francisco. Everything fell apart in February of 2024. I went to James's office for our regular monthly meeting, and the space was empty, not just closed, completely empty. The furniture was gone, the computers were gone, even the company signage had been removed. I tried calling James, but his phone was disconnected. I reached out to the other partners, but none of them were responding to messages. I went to James's condo building, but the security guard told me he'd moved out weeks earlier. That's when I realized I'd been had. The entire operation was a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. The returns I've been receiving were just my own money being recycled back to me, minus James's cut. The real estate development was completely fake. There was no project, no Thai partner, and no government approvals. Losing $1.55 million was devastating, but it was just the beginning. I was still personally liable for the office lease, which meant I owed $180,000 for the remaining 12 months. The leasing company wasn't interested in my sob story. They wanted their money. I tried to liquidate my remaining assets to cover the lease, but between the legal fees, the penalties for breaking my other commitments, and the immediate living expenses, I was burning through cash faster than I could have imagined. The worst part was discovering Nim's involvement. In March, I found out that she'd been feeding information about my finances to James's team from the very beginning. She hadn't just been dating me, she'd been recruited specifically to get close to me and keep tabs on my investment capacity. The woman I'd fallen in love with, the person I'd trusted with my most intimate thoughts and feelings, had been working for the people who were robbing me blind. Every conversation we'd had about my business, every detail I'd shared about my finances, every plan we'd made for the future, all of it had been a lie. When I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She just said she was sorry and that she needed the money. James had been paying her $2,000 per month, plus bonuses based on how much I invested. She'd made over $30,000 from our relationship. I reported the fraud to the Thai police, But they explained that financial crimes involving foreigners are complicated and that my chances of recovering the money were essentially zero. The lawyers I consulted confirmed that James and his team had been sophisticated enough to structure their operations in a way that made prosecution difficult. The office lease holder was more aggressive. They sued me for the full amount of the lease, plus penalties and legal fees. Thai civil court doesn't mess around with foreign guarantors. They froze my remaining bank accounts and started the process to seize my accounts. Here's where things got really ugly. My visa status was tied to my business investments and my financial situation. When my bank accounts were frozen and my business partnerships dissolved, I was technically in violation of my visa requirements. I tried to resolve the situation through the proper channels, but the Thai immigration system is not designed to be helpful to foreigners with legal problems. I needed to maintain a minimum bank balance to keep my visa, but I couldn't access my funds because of the civil suit. My visa expired in June of 2024, and I couldn't renew it. I was told I needed to leave the country and reapply from outside Thailand, but I couldn't leave because of the pending civil case. I was trapped in a legal catch-22. By July 2024, I was living in a 4,000 baht per month room in a rundown building in Hua Kwan. I'd burned through my remaining savings on legal fees and living expenses. I was working illegally, doing freelance web development for cash, trying to keep my head above water. The psychological impact was devastating. I'd gone from being a successful tech executive with millions in the bank to being essentially homeless in a foreign country. I was depressed, anxious, and completely isolated. The expat community I'd been part of wanted nothing to do with me once word got out about my situation. I started drinking heavily. Thailand's alcohol prices made it easy to stay drunk on a budget, and being drunk was the only way I could deal with the reality of what I'd done to myself. In September of 2024, I was arrested during a routine immigration check at a shopping mall in Sukhumvit. I'd been on overstay for 3 months, and the immigration police were not sympathetic to my situation. I spent 5 days in the immigration detention center in Bangkok, which was one of the worst experiences of my life. The conditions were absolutely horrible, overcrowded, filthy, and dangerous. I was finally released when I managed to scrape together enough money for the overstay fines and a ticket to leave the country. But here's the kicker. I was banned from entering Thailand for 5 years. The country I'd planned to make my home had officially kicked me out and told me not to come back until 2029. I'm writing this from Bangkok, but I'm leaving tomorrow. I've managed to borrow enough money from my sister to buy a ticket back to San Francisco, but I'm returning to nothing. I have no job, no savings, no home, and no prospects. The civil suit is still pending, so I technically still owe money in Thailand. But there's nothing left for them to collect. James and his team disappeared completely. I found out later they'd run similar scams in Vietnam and the Philippines before coming to Thailand. Nim blocked me on all social media and changed her phone number. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd moved on to her next target, another lonely Western guy with money to burn. I know what you're thinking. How could someone be so stupid? How could an intelligent person fall for such obvious scams? I've asked myself the same question every day for the past year. Loneliness makes you vulnerable. I was so desperate for connection and belonging that I ignored obvious red flags because I wanted to believe these people were my friends. Success makes you arrogant. I've been successful in tech, so I thought I could evaluate my business opportunity. I didn't respect the complexities of foreign markets and cultures. The expat bubble is dangerous. Living in an echo chamber of other foreigners made me lose perspective on normal Thai life and business practices. Romance and money don't mix. Nim was able to manipulate me because I was emotionally invested in the relationship. I shared information and made decisions based on feelings rather than facts. Legal systems are not universal. I assumed I'd have the same protections and remedies in Thailand that I'd have in the US. I was completely wrong. If you're thinking about moving to Thailand, please learn from my mistakes. Don't invest in anything for at least a year after arriving. Don't trust anyone who approaches you with investment opportunities. Don't get romantically involved with anyone connected to your business dealings. Keep the majority of your money in your home country. Understand that you have essentially no legal protections as a foreigner. Build genuine relationships with expats who have been there for years, not months. I lost $2.3 million. But most importantly, I lost 3 years of my life and my ability to return to the country I'd planned to call home. The financial hit was devastating, but the psychological damage is worse. I'm 36 years old, and I'm starting over with nothing. I'm moving back in with my parents in Ohio while I figure out my next steps. I'll probably have to declare bankruptcy, and it'll take years to rebuild my credit and my savings. And I'm sharing this story because I want others to avoid the same mistakes. Thailand can be an amazing place to live, but it's not a fantasy land where normal rules don't apply. The people who succeed there long term are careful, conservative, and realistic about the challenges. I hope my story can help someone else avoid the nightmare I've been living. If you're considering a move to Thailand, please be smarter than I was. Thanks for reading, and thanks for giving people like me a platform to share our stories. Maybe if enough people hear these warnings, fewer lives will be destroyed by the same stupid mistakes. Sebastian. I know you probably get a lot of fake stories, but I'm happy to provide documentation of everything I've described. I have bank statements, legal documents, and even photos from my time here. This nightmare was real, and it's not over yet.